Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Wednesday message. Today's message is: Are we hearing the wake up call? In order for us to wake up, sometimes we need a wake up call. And Joe Dispenza said that in 1986, he got that call. He was in a triathlon in Palm Springs, California, in the biking portion of the race. And as he made a turn, a four-wheel drive Bronco going about 55 miles an hour hit him from behind and tossed him off of his bike. He had multiple compression fractures of his thoracic spine and upper lumbar spine. He had bone fragments on his spinal cord and a compression of the cord because of the neural arch being fractured. The prognosis was he would probably never walk again because he needed a very radical surgery. But they didn't even know if that would solve the problem. He didn't know what to do. He stated, "You reach this point in your life where it's as a dark night of the soul, when you realize that nobody has the answers to your problems but you. And then you start the process of stepping out into the unknown." He decided that he was willing to step into the unknown. He couldn't imagine himself living on addictive medications for the rest of his life or being in a wheelchair. He had just this one thought, and that thought was, the power that made the body heals the body. He couldn't stop thinking about that because he knew that there is an intelligence that's giving us life, that keeps your heart beating, digesting food. And that consciousness is awareness, and awareness is paying attention. So it must be observing or paying attention to who we are. He stated, number one, I decided that I was going to make contact with this intelligence. I was going to give it a plan, a template, a design. I was going to get very specific on what I wanted. And when I was happy with my creation, I was going to surrender this creation to a greater mind. It knows how to heal way better than I do. The second thing he said was, I'm not going to let any thought slip by my awareness that I don't want to experience. It wasn't easy for him. Out of the infinite potentials that exist for us as human beings, he was always selecting the worst case scenario over and over again in his mind. And he said that embracing that emotionally and being prepared for that event, if anything less happened, he would have better chances of survival. He stated, I think when we're in crisis, it's those survival chemicals and hormones of stress that prepares for the worst case scenario. I became aware that I was focusing on what I don't want to have happen instead of what I do want to have happen. And then I'd stop and realize that I'd have to start all over again. The reason being was because this intelligence is a presence, and he reasoned that he had to be completely present with it, and it had to get a very clear signal, a very clear plan. So he would start all over again and start reconstructing his spine, and then he would start thinking about something else again, and then he would stop again and become conscious, and then he would get frustrated, and then he would get impatient, and then he would get angry, and then he said it would just get worse. So for 6 weeks, he went through this incredible dark night of the soul because he couldn't really get his mind to do what he wanted it to do. It would take him about 3 hours closing his eyes and reconstructing every single vertebrae and starting over again every time he lost his attention. He stated that he was never satisfied really with the way he did it, but that he would keep going. And I want to share with you what he shared with us. At the end of 6 weeks, I went through the whole entire process without losing my attention, and it was like I hit a tennis ball in the sweet spot. Something clicked in that moment. I clicked. I knew that at that moment something happened, and what was taking me 3 hours to do, I was able to do in 45 minutes. I was literally improving my ability to pay attention, and attention is a skill, just like golf or tennis. The more you practice it, the better you get at it. I wasn't going anywhere. I wasn't doing anything. I was basically laying face down, and I had a lot of time on my hands. So this was the object of my affection. At that time, when I was able to go through that whole rehearsal, I started noticing significant changes in my body. My pain levels dropped and diminished immediately. Some of the neurological problems I was having were improving. Numbness, tingling, my motor functions all started coming back. In the moment that I correlated what I was doing inside of me with the effect that I was producing outside of me, I started paying attention to all I was doing and doing it with more passion and enthusiasm instead of dread and frustration. He said that it was that elevated emotion that he started to realize was actually the catalyst to make it fun and easy. He said that all of a sudden he started selecting potentials in the quantum field that were no longer based on the worst case scenario, but really some future possibilities. He said he began to emotionally embrace and experience it completely, whether it was a sunset on the beach or even just taking a shower. He said that he would live it and emotionally feel it. He stated, I think when you combine a clear intention with an elevated emotion, you move your body and your brain from living in the past to living in the future. The brain and body actually don't know the difference when you're truly focused and paying attention between what's going on in your outer world and what's going on in your inner world. The very process of the elevated emotion began to convince his body that he was living in the future reality in the present moment. Because the body is the unconscious mind, it doesn't know the difference. He said that he began to signal new genes in new ways, and his body began to change dramatically. He was actually back on his feet in 10 weeks after the accident and back training again in 12 weeks. And he said he never has any pain in his body or in his back. So why am I sharing this with you today? So many times in our lives, we get caught up in the outside world of events. We know that we are here to keep our minds, our thoughts on what we want in life. We know that every thought we think is creating the world we live in. Whether we like it or not, we are the co-creators of our own personal worlds. We can have a world of love and peace or a world of fear and anxiety. We can have a personal world of health and abundance or a world of pain, suffering, lack, and limitation. But most of the time, nothing is bad enough to get us to change. As Joe Dispenza stated, most of the time we need a wake-up call. But does that wake-up call have to be something dramatic and chaotic? Or can we just observe our lives as they are right now and honor that we are not truly living the life we want to live and make the changes from there? I've already mentioned more than once in these daily messages that our thoughts and feelings are what is creating the world we individually live in. Just change those thoughts and feelings and watch what happens in your life. There's nothing else you have to do. Just change the thoughts and feelings. Joe Dispenza could not get up and do anything. All he had was his mind, his thoughts, and his feelings. But with those, he changed his world. And he changed it dramatically. So just change your world today. Just change the thoughts and your feelings you're holding toward anyone and anything. Give it a month and see what your life is like at that time. But as Joe stated, it has to be complete. You have to focus on what it is that you want in your life. You have to choose thoughts moment by moment by moment. So my thought for you today is that you have a beautiful, abundant, joy-filled, wonderful day. God bless.